Hello, everyone. Welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Today, I just wanted to pass some information to you on this topic of learning because a few of you this week have raised concerns about the way in which you're learning English. It's partly because many of you previously thought that having a big list of vocabulary was the same as being able to communicate effectively. Many of you have rushed out and bought very expensive English learning books, grammar books on different topics, and you thought that that was the key to communicating effectively. Some of you have been sitting in front of TV wondering if you can learn English that way, only to find that you're looking at a screen, you're understanding nothing, and you feel more confused than you are to begin. And so really the question is, what's the best way to learn? How should you progress with your learning? Well, as I mentioned a moment ago, gathering lots of words on flashcards can be useful, but should not be mistaken for having communication skills. You just become like a walking reference. You're like a walking dictionary with a lot of words that you can't use, and if you don't use them, you'll very slowly lose them. The TV thing, sitting in front of the TV, punishing yourself by watching a movie that you don't understand, but it's in English, so that's okay. That's another very slow death because you'll be very bored and upset by the end of it if indeed you're able to last that long. So let me explain to you what I think is the best way for you to learn. Well, first of all, the most important thing that you can be doing with your English is getting your mood right. And I say that because many of you, your starting point for learning is trying to somehow see it like another extension of your professional life. For example, 9 a.m., I have a meeting with my boss. 10 a.m., I have a client call. 11 a.m., I have my English lesson. 12 p.m., I take an early lunch. 1 p.m., I have a call with a colleague who lives in another country. 2 p.m., another meeting with my boss. 3 p.m., I'm going to try to catch 5 minutes to look over the vocabulary list or to listen to something English. And then 4 p.m., it's the next meeting. Now, the reason why this kind of learning doesn't work is because you've simply reduced the English down to become a commodity. English needs a lot of space. And when I say needs a lot of space, what I'm saying there is it is its own thing. So you can't just slot it in there between different meetings. You'd need to take some time to prepare mentally. You have to be open. And rushing from one meeting to another isn't really the way to stay open. That might work at college or university in an environment, a mental environment of learning, but you really need to ensure that you're coming to English lessons and you're approaching English with a very open, can-do attitude. That's a very different thing from saying, okay, I'm going to learn 10 words today, shove them on my flashcards, let them play into my ears while I'm asleep, so I'll remember them. That mechanical way of doing things will almost certainly keep you busy, but will you actually change? with regards to your learning? And that really is the question. I've met many students before who say, oh, I'm doing all the right things. I'm learning every day. I'm getting new words every day. I'm writing every day. But somehow, something just isn't right. I explore it with them a little bit more, and I discover that their view of English is rather strange. They think that 1 hour with a language teacher means 1 hour of bought English. They sometimes think that there's some kind of transference, that if they have an English lesson with me, that words will flow in some kind of download Windows style operation. Other people think that if they can just write a few sentences or ask ChatGPT to produce those sentences, that's learning. The truth of the matter is that learning comes from your openness and ability to take the information and use it effectively. Let me just give you an example of that. So if I tell you you've made, let's say, one mistake in your essay, and then you come back to me the next time and you make the same mistake and the same mistake, and you keep making that same mistake, what that shows me is that either you and I have a communications problem or something isn't right, because that mistake should, in theory, be corrected in future essays. So why do you think the same mistakes keep coming up again and again? Well, it's probably because you're not really giving English your full attention. As I mentioned before, rushing from one meeting to another, family issues in the evening time, it doesn't matter what it is, but it could be that there's something there which is stopping you having your full English moments. Now, let me just expand a little bit on that. I mentioned earlier that English needs a lot of space. I really recommend that before you take an English lesson, or before you start studying, or reading, or writing, or whatever it is you're going to do today, I want you to take 15 minutes to prepare yourself, to be open. You can give yourself some kind of affirmation like, I will be open, or I am open, ready, and ready to learn. I'm open and I'm ready to learn. Maybe it's better not to use the future tense to say I will be, but just at that moment, 15 minutes before your English lesson, I'm open, I'm ready to receive what's about to happen in my English lesson. Just to gather your thoughts together, to allow yourself that extra time. If you really can't do it 15 minutes in advance, do it 5 minutes in advance. But what you want to do is to break the mood from the meeting before, and also stop thinking about that meeting that's coming up after. So just to give yourself even 5 minutes, I'm open, I'm ready for my lesson. You can use other affirmations. Things like learning English is a joyful experience. The more you can remind yourself of these truths, the easier learning becomes. I mean, if you're anything like me, sometimes when I come to learn a new thing, I either have to put it into my day. I have, let's say, I'm teaching 3 hours of English, then let's say I have an hour's lesson of Spanish on italki also. So I teach 3 hours of English, then I go for my own Spanish lesson. By the time the Spanish lesson comes, there's a voice in my head that's saying, there's no way, just leave it, forget about it, just go and get a cup of tea and come back, write to the teacher, tell him you'll give him the money and you can catch him next time. So, of course, that's a waste of everyone's time because the teacher is expecting me. There's also the idea that I should be mentally prepared by taking those 10, 15 minutes or whatever, just to say I'm open and ready. And I didn't give myself that space. So you can see how easy it is for all of us, even me as a teacher, to fall into that black hole of learning. And that's why I'm saying that if you are learning English between business meetings, please try to leave 15 minutes or even 5 minutes to give yourself that affirmation. The affirmation which says, I'm open, I'm ready to receive what's about to happen. Once you get older, it's much harder to be open, There's an opinion often comes up. I was looking at a recipe yesterday. I was going to cook, and it was a delicious beef lasagna. I mean, I don't usually cook meat, but this recipe really was delicious. And I opened up the book, and I saw all of the things that I needed and the amount of time that was needed to make this delicious beef lasagna. And I said to myself, there's no way. Really, there is absolutely no way I can do this. And that voice was quite pernicious. It was a very strong voice, and it was arguing its way into my mind that I wasn't going to make this delicious beef lasagna. Anyway, this is just an example of what happens when you're dealing with learning on a mental level. When you're younger, you can ignore your thinking and you can just say, well, you know what? This will take me an hour. I'm just going to do this. But as you get older, you don't have the time to do that, and your mind just tries to trap you by saying, there's no way. I'm not doing that. So all I'm asking today is that you take some time before you're learning and after you're learning. For me personally, what that looks like is sitting in silence for at least 5 minutes, maximum 15 if you can do it. And just remind yourself, I'm open to learning. I'm choosing to learn. Learning brings me joy. And you'll be amazed at how that can transform a lesson into something which you're actually looking forward to. And that's a very different thing from emailing the teacher and saying, look, I'll be 5 minutes late. I'm sorry, I'm in the car, I'm rushing. And then trying to find your vocabulary list and telling me that it is there, but you don't have it with you. I feel the same way. And there's also the other issue too about how you like to learn. When we're older, we often look back on our school days, which are all about studying from paper, learn these 10 words by next week. And when you're older, who cares about, how to say John's uncle is going to visit his sister or coming to visit his aunt or whatever. It doesn't have any relevance. So you look at it and you think, what? I'm supposed to learn this? A guy called John's going to visit his sister? Who cares? Really? Teach me something that I can work with. But if you come with that attitude of, I can, I will, I'm being open, you'll be amazed at the difference that makes, Your mind is built to learn. The only thing that stops you is this closing yourself off. And one way you do close your mind is by not giving it space. Rushing around. Oh yeah, 9 o'clock meeting with the boss, 9:30 the English lesson. Just give yourself 5 or 10 minutes just to sit, remind yourself about why you're choosing to learn. and also to be in time for the class as well. And you'll be amazed at the difference that makes. I think women are much better at that than men are. But yeah, just to take 5-10 minutes a day with that little affirmation or sentence, I'm choosing to learn. Learning brings me joy, and I'm open to all of the words that I'm going to be learning today. It's a form of meditation. You don't have to rush away and live in a monastery for 3 months. But what you do need to do is almost certainly give yourself a bit of space and remind yourself of the joy. I was looking at a bunch of Dutch words yesterday because, I'm learning Dutch. And I was looking at the paper and I'm thinking, these don't resonate with me. This isn't, the story isn't jumping off the page and coming to talk to me. And why? Because the words were about finance, and I have no interest in finance or politics or anything like that. So I was thinking, there's no point in me even looking at these because I'm not going to remember them. But once I reminded myself of my affirmation that, I'm open to learning, whatever that looks like, it softens my mind a bit and allows me to connect with my own higher power, and that in turn allows me to learn. So please, today, take a few minutes before your English lesson, even 5, just to say to yourself, my English lesson's coming up. I'm open today. I'm open to learning because I want to learn. Remind yourself, and that's a very different thing from seeing English as another thing that you want to push into your day. Well, I've said enough, so I wish you all a wonderful day. See you soon. Bye.